He says it's Ghostface,
Hmm.
and I say it's Method Man. And then he said, no, Method Man is the most charismatic, but Ghostface is the best. And I said, no, Method Man is the best. Yes, he's also the most charismatic, but he also has the dopest voice. And so it doesn't matter that half the time he's not really saying that much, but how he says it is so good that it doesn't matter what he says. So for me, Method Man was a huge influence on me. Method Man made me want to sing.
I'm Zack Newmark, and you're with Damn Yankee, the show that brings you all your favorite entertainers, performers, comedians, musicians, authors, artists as they travel through the Netherlands and those who are based here. Today, I'm joined by critically acclaimed hip hop musician Pete Philly, who first became known to audiences globally with his work 20 years ago with Perquisite. It was an amazing work that he did that led to him winning multiple awards and opening for the likes of James Brown and Kanye West. He's won critical acclaim and great deal of praise from his contemporaries like Talib Kweli. And he joins us here on Damn Yankee in Amsterdam following the Pete and Perk reunion show that was sold out at the Office Live Stadium and the European tour that followed. Pete Philly, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me.
This is excellent. I appreciate you making the time to be here, getting to know us.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious because, and we talked about it a little bit, but you took quite some time off.
Yes.
And came back to it, and you took time off because you had Lyme disease.
That's right.
And tell me about that. I mean, because you've jumped back into it, and you're clearly like out there and rearing to go now.
Yeah. So I always had it without knowing it. So I got bitten by a tick when I was 14. This is 1994. And so my grades just started dipping, and I became more and more erratic. And then 4 years after that, I became a recording artist. So I was doing all of these like tours throughout like Europe and Asia primarily, just with like pneumonia, ear infections, jaw infections, like all of these neurological issues. It's just, we mentioned Munich before because one of your coworkers here is from Munich. So I would like take like antibiotics, and then by the time in my tour I was in Munich, I would just go to a local like drugstore, get more antibiotics, and just keep going. And it wasn't until I was 32 that I was diagnosed as chronic Lyme disease, which is what happens if it's just there and you never really treat it. And I was actually about to move to New York, where I met my now wife, and I got this diagnosis and said, "Well, look, we have this protocol for you. You'll do it for a year, and then you'll be back." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. It's just, okay, a year. I'll move to New York in a year." And 1 year turned into like 5, which turned into 8 years. And and this is in your 30s. That's usually when you like build your empire. That's when you build all these things. I was just in bed for most of it. So when I was in it, I hated everything about everything. I was really like so angry at what had happened to me. But now that I'm out of it, I'm deeply grateful for that experience, because usually you have to be 60, 70 years old to see that the world just goes right on without you. Getting that lesson at 30 has been really good for me. Like before the diagnosis, I put a lot of stock in this idea of this thing that I was manifesting, like this avatar that I'd created, this rock star that I was being at that time. And and to but also, so I had like fame and fortune, but none of my relationships were healthy. Not my friendships, none of it was healthy, because like I was a traumatized human being. That's how I became an artist.
Traumatized from the Lyme disease, you think?
No, like it's just in my family. There's all types of personality disorders, there's suicide, there's a bunch of stuff in my family. So I had to overcome a bunch of like really deep, um, like self-absorption is a trauma response. I had 2 traumatized parents. And I'm an only child, so I was alone. And I was a migrant. I came to the Netherlands when I was 6. So I'm just like, I had to figure a lot of shit out. And I figured it uh, out loud, like in the public eye. And I made a lot of mistakes, burned bridges, did a lot of crazy things. And it wasn't until I was forced to sort all of this stuff out that I am now like a very clear, open, very present channel to be utilized for things that are dope. So,
Americans, you still have one last chance to collect the extra $1,400 the U.S. government owes you from round 3 of the stimulus package if you're behind on your taxes. The experts at My Expat Taxes can guide you through the process just like they helped me. If you haven't filed taxes in the U.S. in a while or ever, My Expat Taxes will quickly and easily bring you up to date with the IRS. That way, you can still collect that stimulus check, but only if you sign up and file by June 16th. Even after living abroad for 17 years, American tax bureaucracy used to feel like a Kafka-esque nightmare for me, but not anymore. My Expat Taxes gives me a real sense of relief with their easy-to-use, up-to-date software, maximizing tax benefits like the foreign earned income exclusion, and they even filed my bank account reporting at no extra charge. They are secure and reliable with a commitment to data privacy and confidentiality. So whether you're catching up or simply filing your return on time, let the experts at My Expat Taxes wipe away your tax anxiety. Use discount code DAMYANKEE and get 10% off your purchase. That's DAMYANKEE, Damn Yankee. At myexpattaxes.com, your life just got a whole lot easier. When was that you came back from this break, basically?
as in, you mean like,
So you said 1 year turned into 5, turned into 8. When was the
yeah,
eight,
so I
when was
started,
the 8 years up?
well, the 8 years was out because the thing is, I did like this comeback thing as a solo artist in 2018
Mm-hmm.
and had actually great success. The British newspaper, The Independent, had this like 2-page article. The glorious return of P. Philly was like, okay, he's
Yeah.
back. It was really nice. So I'm like, okay, but that kind of like blew up or actually collapsed 10 months in because I was just like, oh, well, I'm healthy enough. I'm just going to go back in. What am I just going to be on the sidelines of my own life for the rest of my life? I'm just going. But then I didn't have like a clear vision for what I really wanted. Why did I want what I want? Is what I think I want actually what I want at this point in my life? It's a lot of, so I wasn't there yet. So I just kind of like dipped. Then I released a really beautiful EP called Lift in 2019. I think it's the best work I've ever done. And I was supposed to tour with that, and then COVID.
Right.
And so COVID was actually the moment where for the first time I finally just let go of even this idea of that my only function in life is to be P. Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's got better after that. So, and I also started doing plant medicine ceremonies. I've done a whole host of Iboga ceremonies, which is like a plant medicine out of Gabon, which is in West Africa. So ayahuasca, I have no experience with that, but
Mm-hmm.
from my understanding, ayahuasca tends to hurl you into the universe. It also does all of this spiritual work. It does ancestral work. What Iboga does is it gives you, it's a root. So they take the bark from the root and they dry it. And you take like these spoons of like sawdust, like bitter sawdust. It's really
Okay.
interesting stuff. And they've been doing that in ceremonial initiations for the last 5,000 years or something. It's the Bwiti tribe. They're an offshoot from the Pygmies, basically. But what Iboga does, it goes to the root of a moment in your life where you made a decision about yourself that's incorrect. And that's what trauma is. And it's always like ego always speaks in absolutes. So it's always and it's never and they never will. It's always in absolutes.
Right.
That's how you know it's the ego, as opposed to your spirit. And but yeah, something traumatic happened to me at 13, 14, which mystery repeats is also connected to something traumatizing that happened to my dad at that exact same age.
Mm.
Um,
Can you talk about your trauma?
yeah, but I don't want to make it too blunt. So I'll basically, there was a transgression against me.
Mm-hmm.
It was aggression against me. And not sexual, but just like somebody really crossed the boundary with me. And while that was happening, somebody that I thought was like one of my best friends just stood up on top of the hill, just looked, didn't help. And that was a moment where I decided, oh, wait, I am completely on my own in this world. And everything I've done after has been self-sabotaging. The fact that I even have a career is miraculous because all my choices were based on needing to lose. So the fact that I was able to tour the world is crazy. And also, I did a lot of self-sabotaging. So the Lyme diagnosis also came because there's two bookends to my healing journey. The first was I was doing this like tour in Australia, just a 3-day tour. So we did Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney, and this was as a solo act. And I just broken up with my girlfriend at the time, and I was just a hot mess, and I was like carrying Philly around, but I was like, I know, I felt like it didn't feel authentic anymore to me. So, and me breaking up with girlfriend was big, and then one of the friends of the band that I was touring with said, "Oh, you need to do Vipassana. Have you heard of Vipassana?" So, and I already had booked a ticket to New Zealand to meet up with some great bands that I know there. So I was like, okay, I'm there anyway. I'm gonna land in Auckland. Is there a Vipassana retreat in Auckland? It's just up north. And usually there's never space, but there was space for me. So I could go there. Now, and that absolutely changed my life. So that's how it started. And it ended with Iboga. And I used the Vipassana technique within those journeys with Iboga to be centered in it. So there was an intent there. It's like because I have to manage my insanity daily. I just have to. Like, and it's part of the gift, but it does require management. Like I need to do a cold plunge every day. I need to do all of these things, not to be great, just to not be absolutely nutty.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But Iboga was a beautiful vector for actually giving me bandwidth to be present enough to even have this conversation with you in such an open way, in such a present way.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That happened during the pandemic for you?
Yes. I had a lovely pandy. I know that people were suffering, but I was doing plant medicine ceremonies and bouncing to my island and being in the sun. I got married during the pandemic because you couldn't do like weddings. Right? You could, but you could only do the ceremony. Who gives a shit about ceremony? We're here to eat and dance.
Right.
We're not doing that. So we ended up getting like we did a homie moon first. So what a homie moon is, I've coined a phrase, so copywritten. But a homie moon is that you get all the homies. We got this like house, and it had a little bit of beach on it that was just part of the house. So we could be on that beach because it's private. So you can just do whatever you want. So that's where we got married. And it's great because I had buried my father like 7 years before on the island. And I had a really bad taste in my mouth about how things went down there. There was all of this just stuff going on there. So when I left after the burial, I was like, I'm never coming back to my island ever again. Like, fuck this place, all this stuff.
That was Aruba.
That's Aruba. And then my wife said during the pandemic, this is why, man, I just love my wife so much. She's smarter than I am. She's more talented than I am. It's like I've become like a background player in my own life. It's crazy. She's just amazing. But she's amazing because she has this intelligence to her that's really, really beautiful. She said, how about we go replace that memory with the memory of us getting married on the island? We'll just do it on the island. Then we can actually have a wedding. Not with all of the family, but with just the homies, get it in there. And that was gorgeous. So yeah, long story short, yeah, my pandemic was quite nice. I hate to say it.
I think for me, this story about what happened to you when you were 14 and this friend of yours not coming up to you, how have those qualities and attributes and ways of thinking affected your music and your writing?
Well, I think the fact that my parents weren't available, so they were there, but they weren't like available for me because they were dealing with their own trauma. So I had to go external. I had to go out, go find my people. So a lot of my music is my spirit yearning for communion, for connection, for community. I was communicating to find community. It's all about commune. It's all about finding, where are my people? Got a black dad, got a white mom. I look Italian for some reason, so I don't know what the hell happened there. But the thing is, I'm like culturally mixed. I'm racially mixed. I grew up with speaking 4 languages. I'm multilingual. So when people speak in like a binary fashion, I'm like, okay, so where do you put me?
Mm-hmm.
What am I? What am I? Because for the Dutch, I'm not necessarily Dutch enough. But when I go back to the Caribbean, they look at me like, you poor soul. You've become like this Nordic dude.
Right.
What happened to all of that fire and swag? And here it's like, that's too much fire. Just keep it at 5. So it's like you have this, and it's beautiful. I think it has its place, but it definitely created an urgency for me to find who else. Am I the only one who thinks most of this shit is insane? Like, none of my music is about tonight. I'm not doing those songs.
Mm-hmm.
You can do tonight. You do that.
Yeah.
Do the escapism and sell materialism. You go do that. I'm trying to excavate spirit, and not necessarily just mine. I mean ours. Like, I'm going to heaven, but I'm not going alone. Everybody's coming with. That's what my music is about. That's what my shows are about.
See, I feel like in the interviews of yours that I've read and the work of yours that I've heard, I feel like themes of justice come out a lot from you, and themes of advocacy come out a lot from you.
Yeah, I think so.
And is there maybe a divide between before you took your break and after you took your break about how lyrically what you write about and what you sing about and how you perceive justice in general?
Yeah, it's definitely changed because I was really still traumatized before. And I hate to traumatize, such a popular word now, because people use it because they, I don't know, because the Snickers. No more Snickers. I'm traumatized. It's like, no. So I'm not, you have to. Anyway, so I would be attracted to singing the blues rather than singing the praise, in a way. And now I'm just so grateful to be alive. I'm grateful that you want to sit here and talk with me, and that we can meet minds. I'm just this giant antenna, just that's very excited to meet people. And so I think my themes are even more universal on one hand and even more specific on the other. Like, I have the privilege, by being an artist, to not believe in structure. I mean, certain structures, but not power structures.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever people get bogged down by being team A or team B, I'm like, you're missing the point, because the machine will eat any of us regardless. So, well, it's going to hit me with a left hook. That's better than a right hook. I want no hooks. I don't care if it's left or right. And that seems to be a minority position now. Because, and then people will throw terms like libertarian. No, just anarchy, really.
Mm-hmm.
The actual word. I mean, that's also been co-opted by the machine to mean chaos. But what it means is freedom. I really believe in us. I really believe in us. I think we're beautiful. There's not like some like wombat somewhere designing a new airplane. That's us doing that. That's humans. I love what we are. We are here to co-create this reality. We are creators, each and every one of us. We are phenomenal creatures. So whenever we delegate all of that beauty and power to systems that clearly don't give a shit about us, I'm always put off by it. But that's also because I have the privilege and the time to read a lot of books, read a lot of documents, do a lot of things that people don't have time for, because we out here grinding. What are you pondering this shit?
Mm-hmm.
It's rent's due. What are you talking about?
I feel like, is it possible that some of this, even for you, has come just about from moving to the Netherlands when you were, what, I think
6.
10?
No, 6. I was fairly young, but 6.
But you moved here, and then, you grew up in The Hague, going to the same school that the prime minister had,
That's right.
The last prime minister, and now
that wonderful NATO head,
the head of NATO,
just an exemplary good human being.
And also, is that also the school that he teaches at from time to time? Because he was also teaching at a school in The Hague as well.
Oh, I don't know.
And
I also went to the same high school as the Royals, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So it was, and I was very much the N-word in that situation. I got called out for stuff I didn't do constantly. It's very discriminatory. And I'm translucent looking. What are we doing? What's going on? My mom was, we'll give him a very white name. It's just going to work out. Did not.
It didn't.
I was clear. I spoke 3 more languages than everybody around me, but I was constantly treated as that. Something had happened at the playground. I was like, oh, Pete did it. Why am I always the dude?
You were the one,
Yeah,
the one person of any color.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true. That's true. I was the only one. Yeah, so it was also like, but also it's just clear that I'm just not a conformist, and that's tough for a culture that celebrates conformity and yearns for the middle rather than the top.
How shocking was that going from Aruba for the first 6 years of your life? Your dad's Dominican.
Yes.
Your mom is Dutch,
Yeah,
heritage,
Dutch.
right?
And I grew up with Americans in a literal village called the Colony.
Right. And going to an American school.
That's right. Yeah.
And then that's all gone. And that one day you're here.
I had a really tough time with it.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Well, first of all, I remember I had this like weird quirk where I hated wearing sweaters because I wasn't used to having to have my like sweater sleeves. I was like, get this off me. And it would be dumb cold out, but I was like, no, I can't have it. And there was there was a lot of stuff. And actually, because it was really the beginning of my parents' divorce. It was my mom who basically had enough and just said, I am buying a ticket for me and Pete, and we're out. And my dad just followed. And now we're in the Netherlands. But they had built a whole life in Aruba.
Mm.
No, it was tough, but I would also just like my first bestie when I was like 6 was this German kid. And he was also from another place. And then my second bestie was I think he was born in France, but one of his parents was Dutch, but they were like diplomats, so he'd lived everywhere. So also spoke a bunch of languages. So I would naturally, I'd be a magnet for my fellow weirdos, you know, and that kind of saved me. But the general like culture was harsh to me because it didn't feel celebratory. Like the Dutch, and I'm sorry, Dutchies, I love y'all, but the Dutch tend to only celebrate things when it's uniform. Mm-hmm. So everybody has an orange shirt. Now it's Queens that we're all doing this. Or, well, we're going to Sensation Whites and we all have white on and now we're all, it just needs that. And it's just very like conformed. And so I just grew up with Americans who are like, yo, be the weirdest weirdo you can be and go get it. That's the opposite of this. So, and so if I'm like writing songs in Nashville, I'm completely at home because that is just breathing music and bridal. There's all of these what we call like bridesmaids, what we call it, like bachelorette things.
Right, all the bachelorette parties, yeah.
It's just an endless like gaggle of women just like, so it just didn't drove. It's just weird. But and it's music. And so I'm at home there. But then I also realized, I'm also quite European now. And I still have a bit of that Caribbean thing. The great thing about Aruba is there's like 4 dominant cultures on the island. Mm-hmm. So there's North American, South American, Caribbean, and Dutch because it was a colony.
Right.
So right from jump, I got like this 4-way split screen as to what culture is, and I made it a buffet. So I'll take some of that American exceptionalism with some of the South American fire, with some of the Caribbean Awel Manana energy, with the Dutch stiffness, and then put it in the pot and you have me. You know what I mean? And it's a vibe because it gives me an opening to anybody of any culture. Like what I am has given me such a passport to this place, you know?
And is that something that you seek out, or is that something that finds you? These people from any culture, these people who are...
It finds me.
You know, on the outskirts or on the fringes and...
Yeah, no, it finds me because I enjoy it. I mean, I could hang with you all day. This podcast is done, we continue to hang. Why? Because you're also a weirdo because you're from another place, went to a new place, started anew. You're integrating several cultural ideas, and so you become a very unique person. And I like that we're all like, this universe requires heterogeneity. It needs it. Like that's how permaculture works. That's how all of it works. So we're supposed to be like this weird, like, well, yeah, because you know, there's no blade of grass talking to the other one. Yeah, but I'm different. No, we're all the same thing, but we have to be our own thing within it. You know, and so it just finds me. Like the way this podcast found me, this is also like, you know, it's all specific, and I like it.
What's the real you then?
Well,
I
like
mean, where are you the most real?
this is a good question. I think I'm. It's a tough one to answer because I have like certain requirements. Like I do all of these breathing exercises and cold exposure, but really I just need to yell at some strangers once a week. That's what I need to do in order to have some balance to me. You know what I mean? I need that output. I just do. And so when I'm on stage, there's a heightened version of me, but it's also very pure. It's super open. It's me loving to the highest of my capacity. And so that is real, but it can feel surreal to people observing it because it is a show, right? But that is as real as me sitting here now or me making breakfast for my daughter. It's funny, like I found out later in life that this band that I was touring with, that those guys really were very envious of me. And I found it out through one of their associates later that they really were envious of me. And I was like, why? They sell 10 times the amount of CDs, 5 times the amount of tickets. He has hundreds of millions of views on YouTube. I'm just out here just, damn near in the shade, just existing.
Mhm.
What's going on? And then my wife said something really beautiful about it. She said, yeah, because you are who you are wherever you go. And they have to put a mask on. And I don't have to put a mask on. I actually am what I am. I'm really just this. And I'm comfortable in it now. I wasn't always comfortable in it before.
Right.
And it would be jerky and wonky, But now, yeah, I'm always gonna be real. I'm always gonna be empathetic. And I'm always gonna be excited. I'm a professional enthusiast, really, if you want to give it a designation. I'm just
The way that you grew up,
Mhm.
were you allowed to be yourself?
No, I wasn't. Which is why my entire life has been about that journey of being my authentic self to such a crystal clear idea, such a clear level.
Mm.
Um,
Were your parents creative?
yeah, my father was an architect, an amazing painter, spoke 9 languages, flew airplanes, but was a traumatized human being. So he died not believing he was worthy of love.
Mm.
That's some sad shit right there. And then
Mhm.
my mother was also traumatized, but also a great painter. But they were just stuck in their heads, so they just weren't available. So they did their best. I mean, I'm not trying to knock them, but it's just yeah, yeah. They had beef with all of their siblings, so I didn't really have aunts and uncles, and I'm an immigrant, So it's like, okay, who the hell do I hang with out here? Who has some answers? Because clearly these people don't.
Right.
Um, and yeah, so what came with that was this thing of just like judgment and guilt trips and in certain really important places, a lack of boundaries, and in other places, these weird boundaries. And it just was very disorienting.
Did your success ever resonate with them?
A little bit. My dad, I was sitting in Aruba at the Seaport Village, something that he actually designed as an architect. And we were having like a coffee or something. And this girl comes up to me and says, "Can I take a picture with you?" And I said, "Sure." And I took the picture and then left. And so my dad was like, "Whoa, you want to take a picture?" "Yeah, Dad. I've been telling you for 10 years now. I'm famous." And they was like, "Oh," but it just there's this self-absorption is a trauma response. There's just a blind spot there. And like narcissism and these things, people tend to think that narcissism is that you just think you're the bee's knees, that you just have this grand ideal of yourself. But the fact of it is that you're so scared to death that you're completely alone, that there's just no bandwidth for anybody else.
Mm.
It just doesn't exist. It's a terrible place to be. And it's what my dad had, it's what my mom has. It's a terrible place to be. And the contrast now with what I have with my family is humongous. I have this gorgeous, beautiful wife, a super dope daughter who knows who she is, and looking fly as all hell because my wife's from fashion. When we met, she was a photographer for the Source magazine, the hip hop magazine out there.
Yeah.
And so she's been dope, and she's better at everything that I can do. She can do, but better. It's really annoying.
Your daughter.
No,
Oh, your wife.
my wife. It's
Yeah.
but my daughter also. My daughter is already freestyling songs since she's 2.5. She's 2.5 and she speaks like a 4-year-old. It's nuts. She already knows, and because I was figuring out how I'm going to introduce the multilingual life to her, because I want that for her, because it just gave me such a leg up into even being able to have this conversation with you. You know, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So, but we're doing Dutch first. I was like, okay, we're Dutch. We speak Dutch at home, you know, despite the fact that none of our friends are Dutch. So it's like our entire cipher is not Dutch, but we speak Dutch at home.
Whether you've lived in the Netherlands for years or are getting ready to move here, the best time to learn the Dutch language is right now. Learning Dutch with the Delft method at Nedles is extremely effective because you start speaking the language from the very first day, actively putting the vocabulary you learn to good use. Nedles offers courses at all levels, both online and in person, at their location right here in Amsterdam. Their experienced teachers are specially trained in the Delft method, which combines studying a piece of text at home and then using words from the reading material in conversations during the next class. Students often say they feel supported at Nedles and praise the teachers for creating a safe space where they can overcome their fears of making mistakes. They also specialize in helping long-term immigrants, like me, tap into the passive knowledge they have about Dutch so they feel more comfortable speaking and writing in the language. Dutch classes begin at all levels on a rolling basis, so sign up today and save 10% using discount code PODCAST. Find out more at nedles.com. That's NEDLES.com. Nedles, Dutch for internationals. At what point did you sort of start getting that feeling like music was where you wanted to go, the direction of your life?
Man, when I was 3 or 4, really. Like, I think Thriller came out when I was 2, and it just became the album for like years on end, like well into 1985 or something. So Michael Jackson was everything. So I was breakdancing with my American school friends at birthday parties. So we'd have the piñata, but also like a little breakdance place where we could all breakdance. I was doing that.
Broken down cardboard box.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just doing that. So I knew I was deep down, I knew I was always going to be an entertainer. And when in my early teens, I was like winning all of these awards as an actor. And I was like, oh, I want to be an actor. And then I looked at what is produced out here. It's different now, but back then I was like, I'm not going to.
Yeah, because you've spoke out very critically about Dutch films, Dutch television, and Dutch music.
Yeah, I've a bit Kanye-esque. Bit douche, but no, it didn't resonate. Like I really love excellence. It's what I love about America. It strives for excellence. Now, mind you, it has a lot of issues clearly, but it's a place where if you want to, you get to be great. You get to be great in America.
And what was the? So you went to secondary school, not secondary school, excuse me. You went to higher education in Rotterdam.
Yes, that's right. I did Art Academy.
And the Art Academy. And then from there you went into acting.
No,
right?
I went to music from there.
You went to music, and then how did you get from music to acting?
No, I started out as acting when I was a teenager. I was doing that
before
in school
Rotterdam.
plays and before in The Hague still. Yeah. And it was clear that I had a knack for that. But I think when I was 18, I realized, well, I can write, I can rap, I can sing, I can produce, I can compose, and I have a good. I can put on a creative director hat on when needed. So I'd much rather be the producer, director, writer, performer of my work than having to be dependent on anybody writing something for me, which is what you have with acting. You're just waiting for somebody to bring a script. You could write a script. You have to like wait, and then it has to be good, and then it has to be produced and marketed correctly. There's a million things that could go wrong.
Takes years to get the money.
It takes years to get the money. It's a lot. And I was like, no, I'm dope now. I'm not gonna wait. I'm dope now. I'm gonna wait like 10 years from now it'll pan out. Like I ain't got time for that. So I basically just did that. And the minute I was given the chance to do music, the minute I saw an opening, I took it, and Like I was smoking weed as a teenager. I would just like at 18 was like no more weed, nothing. Bam, go, and just did that. I was just went in, and that's also why I was able to maintain it for a good stretch before my body said, okay, but you also have a debilitating disease that we need to look at.
Mhm.
But yeah.
How was it you and Perquisite hooked up?
So I met some people from Bergen, which
Mhm.
is up north, and when I was surfing in south of France as a teenager, and like the surfing camp, and maintained a relationship. And one of their friends was studying architecture in Delft, and he said, "I have this dude in my class, and he makes music, and you really should hear his stuff." And he was doing the same to him, which was Perk. Like, I know this MC, and he's really good at what he does, and you should meet. And he was bugging us for like, I think a full year, maybe even a year and a half. And then he sent me like a CD, popped it in my Discman. I was listening to it. So this is cool. And by then I was already like on the cover of all of these magazines and stuff. But I was like, so I called him. I was like, yo, what are we doing? Let's work. And so we started working on this project called Northwest Metropolis, which was with two other producers and two other vocalists. And then we just kept making music. And then after a while, we're like, I think this is an EP. Like we had a Mind State EP first, and then there was a Japanese label that wanted to sign us. They gave us some money. It was like, okay, well, let's spend that on getting Talib on the record and getting better artwork, and let's shoot our first video. And then we had that, and then we got signed to Epitaph, which is a LA based label.
It's a great label.
And it's a great label. It's I don't know how it can function in this era, but back then it was like amazing because yeah, punk, man. Punk. Like, fuck the system. We don't need none of y'all. Like when Green Day blew up, like Epic, Sony, Warner, all of them wanted to buy Epitaph. And Epitaph took a full page ad in Billboard magazine with the entire staff with middle fingers up the ass, up in the air, just like, we're not signing with y'all. Y'all can keep that. It's great. It's a great label. And they did something that doesn't exist anymore. They gave tour support. So how they, like, for example, we only know about Radiohead because their label gave them 100,000 pounds worth of tour support to go lose, finding your audience.
Mm-hmm.
In the age of virality, shit, that doesn't exist anymore. So that's how I went international from jump. The first tour already was in like 7 countries. That was unheard of. Dutch people, you're here. You're here and that's it. Now it's different because of the internet.
Yeah.
But there's still, I don't think there's anybody who did what I did. Signing to an American label, doing like black or mixed art and doing some dope things in English and then going global from here that's now you can do because you can go viral and stuff. But we were just like going to places like Munich and Frankfurt, playing for like 12 people on a donkey, trying to convince them that it should be an arena. You know what I mean?
And that first album, Furious, it blew up. I mean,
yeah,
and
it did.
What was that, 2005, I think, right?
6-ish, yes.
Yeah. And, you know, and then you found success in Japan, like you said, also, or a fan base in Japan as well. I mean, it's very unusual for here, especially. I mean,
it's the other way around.
Here where people still talk about Golden Earring.
Yeah.
Mainly, or Shocking Blue.
Yes.
You know, and and when you talk about Dutch musicians who make it, you know, outside of here, it's not a very long list.
Yeah.
Outside of Eurovision.
Yeah, and house DJs.
Right.
The house thing, the dance music, they have that on lock.
Right.
So we got a bunch of those. But yeah, it doesn't happen a lot. But there's like this paragraph in the 4-Hour Workweek. It's pretty well-known book.
Yeah.
And it said something that really resonates with me. It says, so when it comes to your dreams, if you do like a mediocre dream, like let's say you want to start your own, like, I don't know, restaurant, but you're like, you know what? I'll just become assistant manager at that guy's restaurant. Those dreams, that's where all the competition is. That's all. Where you're like, I will be emperor of Togo. Nobody else is doing that. So that's a straight line. So I remember, you know what I mean? And so when I was basically talking to like a manager, like a big time manager back then, this is 2003, just before I started blowing up. And I said, I will be the first out here to do some dope black art signed to an American label and tour globally. And he was like trying to put me up on game. He's like, listen, son, I'll tell you how it all works. We have Sky Radio out here. They call basically stay-at-home moms, let them hear 20 seconds. If they like it enough, they'll play it. If not, it doesn't get played. That's just a computer somewhere in Hilversum. And then nobody gives a shit, bro. It's not going to happen. And I remember telling him like, oh, but hold on. I wasn't asking permission. I'm not asking for permission. I'm telling you what I'm doing, which was super un-Dutch to do.
Right.
That's like an American thing to do.
Right.
But I was like, I'm telling you what I'm doing. I'm not like, what do you think? I'm not. This isn't a debate. I'm telling you what I'm doing, and then I did it. And it's because like back then it was Guus Meeuwis and 50 Cent. So they're like, you're gonna do what? A jazz quintet and a cello, and you're doing rapping, and your debut album is about all the mind states, and it's eager, lazy, paranoid, motivated, and it's a concept album, and you're signed to a punk label, and it's all English, but every now and then in the back you'll hear me say something in Dutch before we record, and you just leave it in. It's classical arrangements and jazz solos, but it also has UK house. We don't know what this is. What are you doing? Yeah, that's why it's gonna work. Because it's absolutely my niche. Nobody was even trying to do that. Yeah, and I think that's how it works. To really make sure your barometer is clean enough to really know who your authentic self is, that's how you can achieve what you're here to do.
So you mentioned Talib, who
Yes.
I've seen solo and in Black Star, both.
Nice.
And he said musically, these guys are light years ahead of the game. I mean, to get something like that from him, who I would say for hip hop was light years ahead of the game in the
100%.
late 90s or in the mid 90s.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
I mean, you know, what kind of an ego boost?
Yeah, it was super dope. And also that he just featured on a group that didn't exist yet. We didn't exist yet. We just had some songs, we had some beats. We're like, we see that you're gonna come through, you're gonna be in London, we'll rent a studio. How much to have you drop a verse on this? And he gave a bargain bin price. It was absolutely doable. And so we just came out with Talib on it. And it was great. We had like these discussions about who's the dopest Wu member and what's the dopest De La Soul record. It was really great. And I bump into Talib all the time. So I'm in New York somewhere. It's like, hey, what's going on? I'm in London. I'll see him. And I'll bump into strange places. And I'm the only reference point that he has for the entirety of the Netherlands. I'm the only reference point he has. And that's also the thing that's weird. It's like to a lot of people outside of the Netherlands, I'm the reference point when a lot of people in the Netherlands have no idea who I am. So, I mean, I have a level of notoriety here, but it's like fragmented. You know? Also because I was gone forever, but also because I never, like when I was 27, they really offered me to be a celebrity out here. And I kindly thanked for it. I didn't want that. I don't want to be somebody that just exists and nobody actually knows what he does. You know, those oh, it's him again. We'll see him on magazines, but what is he? Is he a comedian? Is he what does he do? I don't know what he does.
Who is the dopest Wu-Tang Clan member then?
Okay, so Talib Kweli and I differ. He says it's Ghostface, and I say it's Method Man. And then he said, no, Method Man is the most charismatic, but Ghostface is the best. And I said, no, Method Man is the best. Yes, he's also the most charismatic, but he also has the dopest voice. And so it doesn't matter that half the time he's not really saying that much, but how he says it is so good that it doesn't matter what he says. So for me, Method Man was a huge influence on me. Method Man made me want to sing because he had already like sing-songy. He was like all over the map. He sounded like a schizophrenic on that first album. It was amazing. And so, yeah, for me, it's absolutely Method Man. Like it's Method Man, and then the whole time there's just nothing like, and then the next Wu-Tang member. He's above all of them. That's why he's also the most popular. He's phenomenal. He's a great performer. He's a great lyricist. He has a humility to him that I find very inspirational because he's Method Man. Yet he's always been humble, always ready to work. Him and Redman together is great, and they're both just like bonkers. They're great. They're yeah. So for me, it's absolutely Method Man.
I grew up thinking Old Dirty Bastard was hilarious.
Yeah, all of them is great. I mean, look, they're all great. They all have like great aspects to them. But if somebody said, okay, we have all of these solo albums from all of these members.
Who are you going to pick?
Who are you going to pick? It's going to be Meth.
Right.
All day.
Totally.
Yeah. It's just the nicest to listen to.
You, so this, all right, I found this really interesting because you're very clearly an artist,
Mm.
and that's the person, or that's, it seems to me how you feel about yourself is as an artist. You're an
Mm.
artist. It doesn't really seem to me like the celebrityism or the fame is something that's important to you, but at the same time, you do talk about it very positively, that it's nice to be known and it's nice to be
Absolutely.
appreciated. So I'm wondering, which of those two things is true? I mean, is the celebrityism, is the fame important?
Well, it's nice to be famous, and of course, my level of fame is different than even Talib Kweli or anyone else's. But it's nice if it's the minute it's too rooted in you being something to be consumed, it gets real wonky real quick.
Mm.
But because I've actively gotten away from being white hot to just like lukewarm enough to keep it on the stove, all my encounters are very loving. People were buried to my music. They were married to my music. There's people who have my lyrics on their shoulders. There's even a girl out there, a young girl, who has like my face on her calf. I'm like, what are we doing? I would never do that. But it's so it means something, and it's really nice to do work where people come up to you and say, yo, what you do means something to me. I was depressed and suicidal, and your music took me out of that because I was depressed and suicidal, and I spoke about it and I sang about it and I explored it because my spirit knows that I deserve to be free, to live a free life. And not just me, but all of us. So it's that constant quest for freedom. And at the same time, like this is beautiful James Baldwin quote where he says, every writer, I suppose, feels that the world he was born into is nothing less than a conspiracy against him cultivating his own art. It's like inherent to being a creative that you feel like you have to like grind against it.
Mm.
Like and it's true because conformity and go along to get along, that's global. That's everywhere.
And so I'm wondering also about the reverse of that, right? So is there anybody that you're like a total fanboy with, or that you've
Yes.
performed with that you totally
No,
sort of
I don't
geeked
have
out
that with
on?
musicians. I have that with comedians. Like I didn't even tell you this, but I do stand-up comedy in Dutch. I've been doing that for like a year now.
No way.
Yeah, and I kill. I hate to say it, but I'm really good at it. And it's great because it's the first time I've been communicating in the language that the people here speak. So it's a different experience.
Hmm.
Because if I perform here, people speak English well here, but not to get the nuances. So I make sure the music arrangement's dope. I perform my ass off. But when I bring my show to like London or Austin or Cape Town or anywhere where English is the language, it goes through the roof because then you get a great show and there's lyrical content that says something. But that's absolutely like me being able to rap well in English out here is the equivalent of being very good at yodeling in Hungarian. Who are we doing this for? What are we doing? What are we doing? I'm like a figure ice skater said, well, if it only froze here, I could do wonderful tricks. It's like, well, what are we doing? And it should be that the local culture is what people want to hear. They want to see themselves reflected. And I do that only partially.
So if you're not a fanboy with any musicians, who are the comedians you're a fanboy with?
When I met Doug Stanhope, I was stuttering. I was absolutely, gave him my 2 albums. Yeah, he's phenomenal. Met Jim Norton in New York, and I'm not even that big a fan of Jim Norton, but that whole scene that you had on Sirius XM, what was it called? Opie and Anthony show.
Yeah.
And all the comedians connected to that, I'm just adored. Like, the fact that I never got to meet Patrice O'Neal, I will cry if I think about it longer than 2 seconds. And not because I thought. The great thing about comedy is that your perspective doesn't have to be correct. It just has to be true. And what I mean by that is like some things are always true. Jimi Hendrix is always true. Bob Marley will always be true. But that's not about the content. It's about the intent. It's about if the intent is I'm trying to convey something that I've just been figuring out here. I'm trying to like figure out where the buttons of the universe are. Yeah, then it's valid. It could be something really horrible. Like Chappelle has a great line where he says, a lot of jokes that I say, they're mean, but I don't mean it to be mean. I mean it because it's funny, and everything is funny until it happens to you.
Right.
Which is just facts. So when people get offended, it's like, yeah, we'll laugh at the trans joke, but not at the hurricane joke. Or we'll laugh at the hurricane joke, but not at the It's like, no, we are absolutely all hilariously insane, each and every one of us. And I think comedy is one of the best avenues to explore it in a safe way. It's the only place where we allow philosophers to still philosophize. Like in the Greek times, you'd have like a stage for that. People just pondering, what is all this? We don't live in a world like that anymore. It's so materialist now that most people don't even ponder that there might be something else going on, that we're here, that what our function is other than paying our mortgage and dying at the end. They don't even ponder it. And that shows a society in decay, a society that's lost, a society that's been completely captured by materialism. And I don't mean consumerism. I mean materialism in that believing that matter matters most than consciousness and spirit. And believing that you have to only deal with matter and material rather than the consciousness that informs that matter.
Do you think you would ever, well, I don't want to say leave music behind, but do you think you would ever put music aside for comedy or for?
I think so. I'm in an interesting process when it comes to that. I mean, not look. I produce music and I love producing music. Also because I'm a writer first and a musician second. So if somebody asks me to make music for like a film or for advertising or for an artist or whatever, I have enough distance from it to be able to just be a worker for somebody in that sense, a contractor of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'll always want to do that, but extracting from myself in a musical fashion, I've done so much of that other avenues are a necessity for me to breathe. It's just because I'm not really selling music. I'm selling perspective.
Mm.
That's what I have on offer. And that's why podcast, I should start my own podcast already. Jeez. But that's another, but perspective is all I really have on offer.
Would you put music aside to go back to acting?
No. Acting is, no, other people can go do that. I mean, I love great acting. There's this show on
Just
HBO.
not when you do it.
Yeah, it's not when I do it. And there's some bad, if you want to see some bad acting, I've done Flikken Maastricht, which is the local cop show. It's horrendous. I wasn't ready for it. I was asked to play some like petty criminal, and I'm in there, and the first scene I do, I have to open like the door, and this actor playing the cop is acting badly towards me. Just bad acting. I look at it, and I'm like, oh wait, now it's my line. I say my line. I'm like, it's like a bad sex date. It's like, oh, dick isn't working. Nobody's excited. What are we doing? Like, do we need to shoehorn this in? What are we doing? And so and it's like, well, cut on to the next scene. And I was like, whoa, wait, please.
One more take.
Please give me one more take. I need one more take. And I was like, I felt so unsafe because they just churn it out and they care more about like spending money on the cameras than if there any good acting is happening here, which is why it's a lot of bad acting happening here. And I'm not saying there aren't great actors here because we do have them, but that was an horrendous experience. So it's my only IMDb thing. If you go to IMDb, it's just this one thing. And it's like, that's me like dipping just a tip, like whoop, and then out. No, I'm not doing that. No, and also like the problem with being like multidisciplinary, and because I've done art school, I've done graphic design, I've done a lot of different things, is that it's not about what can I do, but what do I love enough to really want to excel at? And I really think it's conveying a message through songs and music and through jokes. Because hip hop and comedy, they're cousins. Because it's punchlines and setups. It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I only think in analogies. I only think in imagery. That's all I do. So, man, I remember I did the first 10 minutes. It's like a while ago. I just constructed like 10 minutes, did it for the first time, killed. And there's this comedian who was doing it for 17 years. And he said, oh, this is a great set. How long have you been doing this? And that was the first time. You should have seen the blood just get, you should have seen his face. I broke that man. I didn't mean to, but he was like, I can't believe it. And for people like, man, this dude's really full of himself. I'm also quite retarded. So I have a few gifts that I'm really good at, maybe like 3 that I can really obliterate. But everything else, I'm really bad at.
Did you have a bomb? Do you remember a bomb?
Yeah. I now that I've been doing it for a bit longer, yeah, I bomb because but the thing is, most comedians, when they start, they have no stage experience. But I've damn near 30 years of that, 35 years of that. So I'm comfortable on a stage and I'm full of ideas. So even if I'm just like trying to find the idea, there's comedy. Like when I'm just figuring stuff out on stage, a lot of the laughs is me just engaging with the audience and me just making fun of me being in that moment trying to find something. It's I'm just constantly there because you know I believe, especially at this point, that one of my gifts is that I can be a good time. Like I can be a good time to people because I'm genuinely, deeply, deeply grateful that I get to exist and that we get to exist and that we get to hang. So, but yeah, I've bombed. Like I'm like, this is a great joke, and it's just like crickets. It's like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Is the comedy something you could have done 8 years ago, 9 years ago?
Well, I tried it once. There's a local comedian that's very great. He's called Daniel Adens. And I asked him, I want to get into comedy. Like, this is 10 years ago. Let me try it. So I tried it a couple of times then too. And I wasn't bad, but music was still too big a factor in my life. But yeah, so short answer is no, because like as a music performer, as a stage performer, I'm quite like loud and extroverted. It's very big. Yeah, some performers, they let you lean in. They're just behind a guitar and like, here's a song about when I was sad, and then just go play and people just like lean in. I'm not one of those. I'm beating you over the head with my performance, which is just a function of how I operate apparently. But when I do stand up, I don't even move. I'm just behind a mic. I don't move. I mean, my hands move because that's how I speak, but I'm just there. I don't even do the walking. I'm just there. And it's such a joy. It's such a joy.
I'd say stand-up's one of the forms of art that's probably the hardest to do the fake it till you make it thing, because really it's just getting in your 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
And if you suck, you suck at the end of it. And you can't convince people that you're good if you're not funny.
Yeah.
And you can't convince people to like you.
Yeah. And I also hate that. It's nothing harder. Like an open mic where there's like fresh young people who want to do comedy and they're just, they want to be loved. Oh, it's like having to like French kiss your dog or something. It's just like disgusting. It's just a disgusting thing to watch. It's like me. It's like, no, because like a comedian is a man in trouble on stage. That's what a comedian is. So some people want to be like rock stars. And the thing is, I've been a rock star. It's not that interesting. I've met rock stars. They're not that interesting. They're just quite boring often. What people tend to forget about art is that people think that the art is what the artist is. And there is some truth to that. Chappelle has a great line about it. He says, some people think the guy on stage is the performance, but it's the guy off stage that is the performance, so that guy on stage gets to exist. It's it's
really interesting.
It's really interesting. But what is also true is we tend to convey things in our art that we don't have the capacity to convey in our daily lives. So it's, for example, like all the death metal artists, they live in some gorgeous forest in Germany. They're just like in the Black Forest, just like birds chirping like easy, and then boy, that's the music I make. Now, my music is pretty like relaxed and soulful. Have I come across as relaxed to you? I don't think so. I'm not a relaxed person. So I express like this like mellow thing because that's the part that I've had a hard time expressing.
Because you were talking actually before we started about, masks.
Yeah.
And, this is this your mask, or is this
or not,
or is this your reality? And I'm wondering, is the music you the real you? Is the comedian you the real you? Is the home you the real you?
Yeah, I don't know. I do know that like I realized this recently. Like all my lyrics are my prayers. They're actually my prayers. It's a part of my spirit that gets to cut through all the egoic chaos. All this, am I okay? Am I okay? That's why there's a lot of like spiritually uplifting. There's hope in my music. There's belief in my music, and quite like secular in a way, because I'm not affiliated with a denomination or anything other than I do believe that we're all connected to the same source, the same source of consciousness or whatever you feel like calling it. And so it's my prayers. In hindsight, a lot of my songs helped me manifest what I needed manifesting. So I'd have like, I want this thing, and then it shows up. And that's Jay-Z renting everything, being on a speedboat, yelling Big Pimpin', and then becoming a billionaire. Like hip hop music really is a motivational speaking tape on a beat. It's just what it is. It's like, I got everything, and then it happens. It's really dope. And it's true. I think there's a reason that the Bible, like it starts with, first there was the word. Because like if you think about it, like a word is an intention packed in sound through which we generate reality. It's amazing to me. That's why I love language so much. I love it so much, and I'm deeply grateful that I speak several, because the fact that we can communicate in this way, that we can find each other this way, there's no like cow grazing and thinking, shit, what I'm gonna do next Tuesday? They're just here, just grazing. But we make plans. We're just constantly, we generate reality. We co-create this place. And that's a huge responsibility to have. It's the old Spider-Man, like with comes great responsibility, right?
Right.
But I think we're supposed to be shepherds of this place. And that's why things like morality and spirituality and empathy and compassion are so essential,
Would you do more of your music in Dutch or more of your comedy in English, or both? Or
I would do
what are
more
you
of my
thinking?
comedy in English.
Yeah.
But I would like to make something for here. I would like to give them something here. And also extend, because the fact that I've been communicating out here in this language has separated me from a lot of people. Just by virtue of, like, if I'm in France just yelling in shit in Russian, it's like, well, clearly he's not talking to us. You know what I mean? And I know that English is a more universal language now, and most people speak it, and I get it. But I've really enjoyed just also leaning into my Dutch side, because the reason everything was in English is also because for me, the Dutch language became a language of authority, and I spoke English with my friends.
Right.
So this is where I'm comfortable. So, okay, I'll do this. And now I'm as comfortable as I am in English. I'm also that comfortable in Dutch now, which is gorgeous because I speak it beautifully. Like I have a vocabulary there that baffles the Dutch because I love language that much. So when I get into it, I will learn the weirdest of words that haven't been used in 70 years. And I'll speak like an old, like Dutch regent. It's like, why are you speaking like that? Yeah, because I can. Why not?
It's the language of Wassenaar. It's the language of the
language of
right?
Wassenaar. Yeah. So, no, but I would love to go stateside and do like just somewhere in a club that I really adore. I would love to do like 5 minutes and 10 minutes and just see what it is.
Let's switch it to a plug for you then. So if people want to see you, how do they find out where to see you?
Okay, so right now, because I'm doing Pete Philly and Perquisite, the best thing to do is go to PetePhillyandPerquisite.com. We are about to embark on a theater tour throughout the Netherlands. It's like 12 dates. I also don't know how long I'm going to do Pete Philly and Perquisite for. So this might be the final run because I have other stuff to do, clearly. So, and it's a theater show. So there's a lot more context to it. There's more space for the music to breathe. So more string arrangements and just gorgeous things. We're having a phenomenal band. So that'll be dope. We're starting, I think, somewhere in April. So that's on PetePhillyandPerquisite.com/live. If you're in London, April 3rd, we're playing at the Hootenanny. So looking forward to that. It's a cool club.
Real cool.
And then we're doing a festival in Switzerland in a couple of weeks. It's called the Tone Art Festival. So if any Swiss is watching this, you can see that. And you can follow me on IG. I finally decided to be active on it again. So please follow me on IG. And I hope to see you there.
Are you going to do any stand-up when you're touring around with Perk?
No, because the great thing about I have started to speak about the fact that I'm doing stand-up, but I'm playing it close to the vest, and I'm playing in really weird places, and it's not announced, and it's just me, because it's mine still.
Yeah.
The minute it's published, it's no longer yours. So I don't think people will see me do a stand-up special until like at least a year from now, or I'll start dropping clips of what I'm doing now. But it's all pretty much about like being just a dad and just like family and the uselessness of having a male appendage when you're in a marriage with a kid, and just all of that stuff. It's just very universal, funny enough.
Oh, great. Well, Pete Philly, thank you so much for being so generous with your time
Hey,
and
man, it's great.
sitting here, chilling out, and talking to us. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. Thanks. Damn Yankee is produced in partnership with NL Times, the top choice for English language news from the Netherlands. Founded nearly 15 years ago, NL Times grew to become the #1 site for information about this country, featuring more news stories every day of the week than any other website. Keep tabs on the latest top stories and breaking news from across the entire country, not only in Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and The Hague. Find out more at nltimes.nl. Damn Yankee is an NL Times production. The show was created by me and Peach Rizzo, and this episode was produced by Peach Rizzo.